I just did something stupid and now my foot hurts. I've done a lot of stupid things during my life as a runner, but I also learned a lot from those mistakes that I now use as a coach to help others and also myself. Here's 7 things smart runners don't do and what they do instead that will not only make you run faster, but also make your running more enjoyable and sustainable. This brings me to my first point that is so important. It's okay to make mistakes. I've so far never met a runner who has never made a training error whatsoever. But what makes a runner smart is if they manage to learn something from those mistakes. So if things don't go as you want with your running, it's good to have the approach that you probably did something wrong and need to change something going forward. In order to do this, you need to take ownership of your mistakes and not stick your head in the sand feeling sorry for yourself and thinking that you were just unlucky, because from that you won't learn that much. Some runs are simply boring. I'm the first to admit that. Maybe that one day you're supposed to go and run 5 kilometers at an easy pace and you just don't feel inspired and the couch feels way more tempting. But smart runners know that it is in the persistence to still go out there on these boring sessions that will allow them to have the consistency that will help them keep injury free and get those really cool and fun runs and races where they just love it. And chances are pretty high that even if you don't want to get out on the run and you just want to go home during the run, you will still feel a lot better for having done it once you get back home again. You know that saying that comparison is the thief of joy. This is true for so many things in life, but maybe especially when it comes to running. Because comparison might not only take away the joy from your running, it might also make you take bad decisions in your training that will hinder your progress and maybe even injure yourself. I myself have done this way too much in the past. Especially when I was injured a lot as a young ambitious athlete, I looked at what my friends were doing and it was so frustrating seeing that they could do the same training that just left me injured over and over again. So instead of figuring out what I needed to do to be able to run injury-free, I just felt frustrated and that it was unfair. But that's the harsh reality that you gotta cope with, that running is, as many things in life, not fair. We're not born with the same talent for it, but even though you, just like me, probably don't have the optimal genetics for running, it doesn't mean you can't get a lot of joy out of running and improve to levels that might even surprise yourself. But that is if you mainly compare to yourself. Smart runners see where they are at and do their best to get the most out of their body and their running. And don't get stressed about what everybody else are doing. Because even though you see that your friend on Strava can run very fast on all their runs and just keep getting better and better and never seems to get injured or have problems, that shouldn't affect what you are trying to do with your running, because you are not them and you don't have their genetics, you don't know all their training background, you don't know if they maybe do all their runs in severe pain and will not be able to have longevity in their running. You are you, and if you use your strength to your advantage instead of comparing yourself to everybody else, I'm sure you can get a lot of joy from your running and reach your goals. You have most probably heard that you need to run slow in order to get fast, and this is so true, because without those slow runs you will never be able to build up the resilience to handle those harder sessions and slowly build up your running volume, which is what will make you run faster in the end. And if it's something I see beginner runners and even experienced runners doing wrong, is that they run too fast on most of their training sessions. In return, they either get injured or never have those really good interval sessions because they are too tired from the last run. Also, if you run close to your maximum on most of your runs, competing against yourself or others, you will most probably end up not enjoying it and not be able to stick with it. Even though I love pushing myself and run really hard in some runs, if all my runs would have been like that, I would struggle to get out there most of the days. Even on most interval sessions, it is better to run closer to that lactate threshold compared to pushing yourself all out. This will make you enjoy those sessions a lot more, reduce your injury risk, and severely decrease your recovery time. And in return, all of these things will make you come back for another interval sessions a lot faster. So even though you run a bit slower on the hard sessions, if you end up doing twice as many of them, you will become a much better runner and get more joy from your running that way. The training watches are getting pretty smart, and they for sure capture a lot of valuable data. But if it is one thing that frustrates me, it is when athletes listen more on what their watch say than what their bodies are trying to tell them. For example, when it comes to monitoring your heart rate to make sure you don't run too fast on those easy runs and make sure you run fast enough on those hard sessions, it can for sure be a great tool, and you can learn a lot from it. And if you have trouble running slow enough on your slow runs, it can be a really useful tool. But there are some problems with it. First of all, your heart rate can depend on so many different factors. For example, how warm it is, how much caffeine you have taken, the time of the day, and your overall stress in your life. Also, those optical heart rate sensors you have on your wrist are in many cases not super accurate. So with all this in mind, if you blindly look at what your watch is saying and your heart rate to determine your effort when you're running, you might end up pushing yourself too hard or too little other times. As I said, it for sure is a useful tool, but smart runners tend to learn to also listen to their body and the feeling, which oftentimes gives you a really good indication of if the pace you're running at is good for what you're trying to achieve. Most training watches also give you an estimate of how long you should recover from each session. And I'm sure this technology is improving rapidly and will become more and more useful. But from what I've seen so far, it is not really a useful tool yet. We humans are so complex beings, and our recovery time depends on so many things, so I think it's better to try to learn how much time you need to recover from different sessions, because smart runners and the elite runners I worked with tend to get to know their body very well instead of blindly relying on training watches or other technology. Remember that somehow before all of these things existed, people still managed to become really good runners. Before we head into the next point that I think is the most important one, I would like to thank the Patreon supporters of this channel that make it possible for me to make these videos. If you like my videos and want access to a bunch of bonus content and the GW Training Squad, which is an exclusive Discord server where we help each other to make smart decisions in our training, there's a link in the description to my Patreon. Okay, so what unsmart thing have I done that has caused me to get this pain under my foot and needing to end that run early? Well, almost all run injuries come from doing too much too soon. Maybe you increase how much you run too rapidly, or you increase how fast you run too rapidly. I didn't do any of those things this time, and I didn't think I did something stupid, but in hindsight, it is obvious what unsmart thing I did. I was training for an uphill running race, and that meant that I started doing a lot of hill work in my training. I quickly went from running only on flat surfaces to running a lot of up and downhill. And I think it was especially the pounding from running a lot of steep downhills that I wasn't used to that has caused me to get this foot issue. But although I did too much too soon this time, part of it was still a smart thing. Because one of the most important and simple training principles that people still seem to neglect many times is that you get good at what you train at. So if you want to improve at a specific thing in your running, you need to train as relevant as possible for that specific thing. For example, with this uphill race, I was training for. If I would have just ran on flat surfaces leading up to the race, then I couldn't have expected being that ready on the starting line. So what I did was that I ran a lot of hill intervals at a similar intensity, similar incline and a similar surface to the race. So train as specific as you can for your goal or race. Just make sure you don't do too quick changes in your training like I did this time. All of these points, at least I need to remind myself of once in a while. So I hope this was a good reminder for you as well. And if you want to see a video where I debunk some of the biggest myths around running, you can click here. Train smart, have fun, and I will see you in the next video.